go.
Are we live again?
That's what our
We
producer
always
said.
live.
Oh, you know, right? We's all the way live. Jam from back in the day. We's all the way live. Are we still on this right here, Bobby, or are we like on the screen?
You on screen, dude.
Yeah,
There we go.
So
You just went live.
So
Just
is
got
this
it.
the one? All right.
Oh, that's much better.
Oh yeah. Man.
That's much better.
What's much better, the video?
That was
Yeah,
nice.
the videos is
That's
playing
nice.
smoothly
Really?
now.
Oh yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
that's nice.
First day back is always the hardest. First day back.
That's much better. Yes, it
First day
is.
back from
You
one
see
day.
it now? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
It's a lot moving faster.
Much better. Yeah, we're back to normal now.
Yeah.
The delay.
Yes!
The delay's not so bad.
No.
I mean, it's still about 10 seconds.
So, what's up, everybody, man? I know we're getting a late start and everything, but what's been happening with y'all since we last met on Monday, man?
Man.
Let me rephrase
Which
the
one?
question. Tell you what, rephrase the question. What was y'all thoughts on the show in terms of should drugs be legalized? Let's kind of sum up. Let's round out last show. You and Jonathan weren't here. What were y'all thoughts on as you all watching the show?
I mean, I go by literally the representation from other countries that do have drugs where everything is legalized. You know what I'm saying? Under whatever stipulations. And they just have a lot less crime and they have a lot less drug issues in terms of, against the law. You know, they deal with a lot less drug addiction and, it seems like, you know what I mean? So if it works somewhere else, why won't it work here? Unless they just don't want it to work. You know what I'm saying? I mean, whatever the case is. But I think it should be. I think it should be legal.
What about you,
No, but
Jonathan?
you say you should be what? Just one weed? We're talking about
No,
heroin, coke,
like the same way
all
you
that
see,
shit.
say for instance, in Amsterdam, right?
Okay.
I mean, and there's other countries. I can't think. Like, do anybody know any of the other countries?
Absolutely.
That, you know what I'm saying?
Portugal, Sweden, England, Netherlands.
Right.
Yeah.
So, when you look at those countries and you look at the level of crime associated with drugs and all of that type of stuff, it's vastly, it's just a whole lot smaller than it is here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, it's like, if you can't see that in so many representations of where it works, like, why not do that?
Right. What are your thoughts, John?
I agree with Brooke. I think it should really be fully legalized. I mean, that in the countries where they have done it, all the bad scenarios that people think are going to come out of it haven't happened. Time and time again, the examples that we've seen in real world, it actually happening in specific places, it hasn't turned out, as a negative. In most cases, you wind up seeing crime go down. You see tax revenue increases, so that means schools and all of that stuff gets a big boost of cash because now this illegal enterprise is being taxed like a commodity, like every other good and service that we pay for.
Right.
Now you're actually getting tax revenue off of that.
Right.
So it really can improve the economy. And then, of course, you also have to remember the factor of taboos. When something is taboo, when you're being told you can't have something, what does that make the average person do? Want it more.
That's true.
So once you remove that taboo, demand is going to drop because in places where they've legalized cannabis, kids don't smoke cannabis anymore. Kids are going after alcohol because that's still the taboo, but adults are the ones who are taking advantage of the weed, and that's who it's for anyway. So it doesn't have the negative. I understand the apprehension because it seems drastic, but in all the examples that we have in real world situations, that hasn't turned into a negative. It usually works out to be a positive.
We also got to think though, all the countries you mentioned, It's like 3 states.
Right.
So that's a lot more people here. And all the freedoms we have, like I always say, being too free kind of hurts. All that freedom we have, that's what fucks everything up. You know,
We go a little overboard with
yeah,
it.
we go a little overboard with it. You know, like we said, if you could have something where it's controlled, we control it here. I don't want to go there today. I want it here, so I need somebody to sell me some shit so I can do it at my house.
So you're saying that you think that with the differences between here and some of those other countries is the fact that we have more freedoms than they do,
right?
And so that kind of taints the way we move
and the way we think. Like for me, it's like legalize, but you can't restrict it because if I want to do heroin, I want to do heroin without no problem. But if you're gonna make me go to somebody we talked last time, maybe a controlled area, you come to the hospital. I don't want to do that shit because I want to be high all the time because those are drugs that you get high.
But here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say to that.
You just want to keep getting high.
But look, if I can say something real quick, the thing about it is you got to realize when we say legalize it, okay. In the United States, each individual state has its own capacity to set its laws. But what we need done is a federal ban on these substances need to be lifted. So that way, once that federal ban is lifted, each individual state can do what it wants. It doesn't have to, all be legal everywhere. Oregon just legalized everything.
Right.
So we got an example of right here in the States, so we can actually see what's going to happen over the next year, 2 years, 3 years. But realistically speaking, it's not going to be legalized everywhere. But you're going to have a few states who are going to jump on it. I guarantee you Texas would be one because there's too much money involved. The money interest here in Texas is going to jump on that.
Jumped on the weed
becomes
shit,
federally legal.
They ain't jumped on the weed, so I think they'd be the last one.
I think
there's a lot of money involved in weed.
I think they're gonna always be slow to the tape, man.
I mean,
but you gotta realize Texas is getting ready to turn because with Elon Musk and a lot of Silicon Valley moving to Texas, you're having a lot of quote unquote liberals coming into Texas now. That's gonna change the voting dynamics over the next few years.
But they coming from another red state.
Right.
They're coming from another red state, so you may not see the kind of change you would anticipate.
Blue state. They're coming from California. Most of them are transplants from California. That's a blue state.
I thought California was red. I thought that was a Republican-run state.
No, they even got a Democratic governor.
Oh, good for them.
Gavin Newsom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good for them.
So yeah, they're a blue state. So they're the California hippies. So they're coming out here with their liberal ideas. Yeah, it can happen. I'm not predicting the future. I'm just saying that it's a possibility.
Absolutely. No, absolutely.
It'll take a while. For Texas, it'll take a while. Too much rivals here.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, brother.
Oh no, I was just gonna say because at least at the very least, if they've been out in California, they're used to smoking weed legally. Right. If nothing else, once that money starts coming in, the money people start coming in from California. They're gonna start pushing. For at least weed to be legalized. I guarantee you. They're too used to being able to go to their dispensaries, man.
John, you used a very important word I want to highlight on, man. And I'm gonna use this as a segue to what we was gonna talk about. You said a lot of our perceptions regarding drugs are seen as taboo, and a taboo, if we really look at it, is kind of like a prejudice or a stereotype. And I would like to know, since tonight's subject is on prejudice versus a stereotype or what have you, and we see how that plays out in terms of like legalization of marijuana, legalization of prostitution, legalization of certain psych meds, these kind of stuff. Not so much that they're a danger in and of themselves; it's our perception of it. Right. So I would like for us to go ahead and go into this part of the conversation and say, when you first saw that the topic was going to be like prejudice versus stereotypes, and is it a natural thing among us? Is it something that we learn? Is it something that's innate? What were your thoughts on the topic, man?
Well, okay. The thing about it is, it's kind of one of those chicken and egg conversations. Prejudices and stereotypes, of course, as we both know, all know, I should say, are two different things. You can be prejudiced, but a stereotype is just a generalization based on a certain group or a certain activity or whatever the case may be. But prejudices mean you hold some type of grudge against that group or grudge against that religion or something like that, as far as being hostile or anti that, whatever it is. But with stereotypes, the problem is that we as human beings, we really can't help but find patterns in it. We're going to sort things by group. We're going to look for things that are similar to put them all in a category because that's how the brain works. So it was kind of unavoidable that we would come to this. It's just sad that we pushed it this far as society is concerned.
Y'all got any thoughts on that?
I wasn't paying attention, so
Enjoy yourself. You just lay back and go for the ride. Enjoy yourself.
I was gone. I was trying to say what's up to Kev. He said what's up. Wondering why Jam disappeared and shit.
Oh,
So like, yeah, I was in a
oh
whole
yeah.
world and shit.
Wasn't he there a few minutes ago?
He was. He put a disappearing act on
He
us.
disappeared on us. I don't know why.
Oh.
He's still on the phone though.
Y'all lost me?
Yeah. You
Your
turned
video.
you turned into a ghost, man.
You know what I'm saying?
Hey,
I was the
I'm the ghost of the daily smoke.
Oh, he done took your name, Lord. He
You
done
know,
took your name, dog. He's a ghost.
COVID killed me, so now I'm just a ghost.
I say that shit, man.
So
Silly word.
What the hell is this?
let's look at it this way, and the reason that I thought we would talk about this particular topic is because I think we live during a time where there are so many different prejudices and so many different stereotypes that it's starting to affect, or I shouldn't say start, it has been affecting our human interactions and relations with each other. Case in point, one of the people that I was researching said, hey man, you can have a stereotype and it may be seen as a positive, but if you're not a part of the group that you're stereotyping, even though it's a positive stereotype, they will take it negatively. Case in point, remember they used to always say whenever an African American man or woman was very articulate, they say, oh, you speak so well. Mm-hmm. On an individual level, that's a compliment. On a group level, that can be seen as an insult.
Right.
What you mean I speak well? I would tell you you speak well. You know?
That's just one example. We could talk about body type. We could talk about intelligence. If we're going to talk about
We can talk
stereotypes.
about the black male stereotype.
Huh?
That's positive.
Say it again?
The black male stereotype.
Yes.
As far as they say we all have, are well endowed. I'll say.
Right.
And so that's a positive, stereotype.
Mm-hmm.
But if you bring it up in the wrong context or it's brought by the wrong person, it can be seen as an insult.
Absolutely. My concern, man, is when we talk about stereotypes, as you said, as the brain does it naturally. And the reason the brain does it is because it goes back to our early human evolution.
Yeah.
We didn't have time to figure out if this thing was going to eat me.
Right.
If this thing presented some type of danger to me, we had to come up with a quick frame of reference to say evade, flee, kill, engage. And because of that, that's kind of how we started categorizing the world around us, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the danger that I saw in stereotypes was stereotypes can lead to a prejudice.
Right.
And but these are still attitudes. So we still haven't gotten into behavior. We're still talking about attitudinal aspects of these issues.
Mm-hmm.
Stereotypes possibly lead to prejudices. Prejudices can lead to discrimination and bias.
Right.
That's the behavioral part.
Right.
Before we even talk about discrimination or bias, that's why I keep hitting on. Let's make sure we have a clear understanding of what we're talking about. Let's have a clear understanding of our own prejudices and our own stereotypes that we may think are normal. For example, we automatically assume, I think in about the mid 80s, man, early to mid 80s, All Chinese people knew karate, kung fu. They were all Bruce Lee's. Remember?
They do though.
You see, it's a stereotype.
Yeah,
They do.
It's a stereotype,
It is.
right?
You know?
Have you?
That was how for me growing up. It's
Uh-huh.
like you were young and said Chinesey dude trying to get stupid with us. Like, yo, you know that nigga go kung fu,
See?
man. You
See?
better watch out. He gonna whoop
See?
your ass, man.
See?
And he could have been like the scariest motherfucker in the world, but
Right.
that would give us the hesitation. Like, wait, all he had to do was.
Right.
We'd have been like, oh
Right.
hell no, this nigga know Bruce Lee, man. Let's go.
Right?
You
You
know?
know Bruce Lee.
Yeah, so we're like, you can't mess with him, but
Right.
he may have not known nothing.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
And because of that, he might have known that that's all he had to do was stand my ground,
Right.
act like I know some shit,
Right.
and they'll leave me alone.
Exactly.
You know, so it's like, yeah, that's crazy, but yeah, I
Exactly.
see that's a good example of that.
That's. I'm not trying to get off subject. Actually, it's really on it. That's one of the things. One of the things that.
That's connections.
One of the things that I found interesting regarding that example was, let's just say you believe that, you know, some Asian individual, you thought they knew kung fu, karate, like Bruce Lee, whatever, right? So you're not as likely to engage them physically. But when the now that's an attitude, right? But when the UFC, oh okay,
That's,
got you, Kev.
no, look what Tia said.
Oh, T. Marie, she says, when I travel, oh, that's Tawana.
No.
What's up, T? Thank you for tuning in.
What's
Yeah.
up?
They-
Oh, damn.
This is my family.
They thought it was Tina Marie.
You know,
Oh
Tina Marie
yeah,
was a white
yeah,
girl.
that's right.
see, they thought, yeah, all black people born with a singing voice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But then when you started getting systems of fighting in, such as like mixed martial arts, that said, okay, well, if everybody knows Kung Fu in China, let's see how good it is. So now you have to have a behavior where someone knows one thing and they're going to engage this stereotype of what they know. And they're like, hey man, that's not what we thought.
Right.
So now our behavior is what uprooted the false preconceived notion or stereotype that we had regarding whatever it is that we was discussing or we was afraid of or what have you.
Right.
I think that's important because maybe we're coming at this race issue wrong.
Okay.
Maybe, and this is not the subject, we're just talking, because prejudice and stereotypes can exist in any format. I'm only bringing this up so that you all can have a frame of reference regarding what we're talking about. Instead of trying to legislate humanity
Okay.
and proper morals and proper engagement or what have you, maybe we need to start putting to test some of the ideas that we have regarding other races, other sexes, other genders, other whatever you want to name. Because obviously, they say, what's the old saying? What's one way you combat an idea is with a better idea? Well, but it still stays in here. It doesn't make it out here. So we have to find a way to start engaging and communicating with each other on an individual level, instead of trying to make the individual fit the group. Does that make sense, everybody? Am I losing y'all? Is this boring? Or, you know?
No. I hear what you're saying.
Like, I'm just trying to make it relative instead of academic. Because
Right.
You follow what I'm saying? For example, I got a homeboy, he can't stand Indian people. He cannot
I
stand
know
it.
that dude.
You do?
I know that dude.
I know that dude.
You do too? Okay. And I've often had conversations with him. Like, okay, what is it about this particular group that you don't care for? And here's the grounding for a stereotype. What makes a stereotype or gives it some kind of legitimacy is it's an observation based in reality.
Right.
So if I come across 10 chickens and every time I see a chicken, they all cluck, I'm gonna assume that all chickens cluck. Instead of taking the attitude of the chickens I came across cluck,
Right.
but all chickens may not cluck.
Right.
Those are two totally different realities.
Right.
So when I asked the individual, I said, hey man, so what is it about this particular group that you don't really care for? And notice how whenever people are operating off of stereotypes, they come from very global, general, broad terms. And it's usually confined to a specific representation of the group that's under question. I don't know, to be honest with you, I don't know if that's the way we get over bigotry, but by, let's say, okay, well, if you say they're all mean and we find some that aren't, are there exceptions to the rule? Or all Indians mean, as our friend would say. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know what the direct, I don't know what the solution is. I'm only just throwing out hypothetical engagements, that's all.
I mean, if everyone would think like that, that would be wonderful.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? But
Okay. So what's the problem? If you say everyone would think like that, that means everyone isn't thinking in similar terms like that, right? What's the problem? Or rather, why aren't we thinking like that?
That's the question, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like, that's honestly the question, because the question is why is there prejudice? You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Why are you prejudiced against these people? Why are these people prejudiced against you?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like why? Yes, it may be something different. Yeah, it may be stereotypes, and they may be real. You know what I mean? Whatever. But that doesn't mean, like, it's common sense that everyone is not like that, even though there are those that are. Right? It's common sense.
Absolutely.
Nobody should have to tell you that, and nobody should have to tell you to think like that.
Okay.
Right?
Absolutely.
Especially when you're grown. You're grown, yeah, your mom and your parents gotta teach you
Sure.
morals and shit. But even at some point, just it should be an innate.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's not even, it shouldn't be hard. Because nobody's born
A racist.
a racist.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
People, I think more times than not, it even after.
Agreed, brother. Agreed.
You know what I'm
Agreed.
saying?
It's a decision. Isn't it?
Exactly. And at that point, there is no way to change that, to rehab a person.
Okay.
But that frame of mind, you're not gonna stop that, dog.
You're not.
Because
Also,
because at a certain point it becomes a conscious choice.
What's your thoughts, John?
I mean, I agree with Ruck, and I agree with you as well, Ron. I mean, the thing about it is kind of like I said before, we've let the idea of a prejudice, which, like, again, I'll restate that I think is a completely natural way for a person to think. You're gonna have these pre-assessments until you know different, and until you meet some people from that other country, till you meet some people from that other group. You're going to have these preconceived notions from either other people you've been in contact with, things you've seen on the media, wherever they come from. You get those. But we've gone overboard with it. Like Ruck said, it should be normal to think that I'm not better or I'm not, superior to this person just because I'm a different skin color, I'm a different, ethnic background, whatever the case may be. But we really have just kind of let these ideas, I'm not going to point fingers, but I say certain groups have let these ideas just kind of dominate their way of dealing with the world, and because of that, it's put us in a lot of bad situations. So as of right now, we just have to try to work and get and bring us back from that brink. But who's to say how that's going to turn out?
Now, is that a problem if you're not racist to that group, you just have prejudice against them? Let's see what's wrong with that. I mean, it's not like I'm doing anything. I'm not doing anything to not stop you from doing anything. I just don't like you around me. What would that be?
Right, that's a prejudice.
That's a prejudice, but what's wrong with it?
Well, see, at first your question was different, because at first you said you can have a stereotype against someone, but not be prejudiced towards them. That's what they do.
Well,
Okay. Well, and you're right, Ruck, because that's what I understood him to. That's what I was thinking.
That, if that's where it stays,
right?
You know what I'm saying?
If you're someone that, like I said, okay, I don't fuck with you. I just don't like that type of person, or I don't fuck with you. I'm not doing nothing to stop you from doing anything in life. I just don't try to hang out with too many like you. What would be wrong with that? If
Well,
someone
it
was feeling
depends.
that way?
It depends because see, it turns into prejudice when it becomes an action. You know what I'm saying? So at that point, you could be thinking it but not reacting. Then it's not prejudice.
Well, that would be a prejudice. It would be a bias and a discrimination when you move from prejudice to action.
Right.
You follow what I'm saying?
Right.
All right.
Right. That's what I'm basically.
I understood. That's what to clarify the term.
Appreciate it.
I don't want to interrupt
Yeah.
your thought.
So, damn, now I forgot what I was saying.
No. You were saying, hey man, you can have that attitude, but it's gonna
Oh
translate
yeah,
to an
yeah.
action.
At first you were saying, you know, your question first was framed like to have a stereotype against someone, but without being prejudiced towards them. And then after that, you said, but you can't be around me. That's an action. So
No, that's not an action because if they're around me, I'm not going to say anything about you being around me. But in my life or in this person's life,
yeah,
what's wrong with me not wanting to be around them? I don't invite them over. That's
right.
not.
Well, yeah.
I don't have
mean,
anything. I just.
then,
If you're there, you're there. But I'm not gonna say, man, just get the fuck away. I'm not gonna say shit to you.
Then I think at that point, you know, like I was saying, as long as it doesn't become an action,
It's not an action.
it's not. It's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if someone could still very fairly sit down with you and ask you, but why do you feel that way about a whole race of people? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And you haven't met all of them. The same reason why you would ask, why do white, not that you give a damn because I don't either, but why do prejudiced white people hate black people? It's still the same thing even if they sit there, because think about it. If you had a white friend, right?
Mm.
And your white friend would sit around because they look at you as Hispanic and they only hate black people, okay?
Good point, Dev. I know where you're going.
Sound like Pittsburgh to me.
Good point.
And they're sitting there and they're always saying fucked up they never go out and do anything to a black person. They'll even front in front of them. You know what I'm saying? But at that same time, they'll pull you to the side and be like, I can't stand these motherfuckers. You know, talking crazy about them.
Mm-hmm.
And then smiling in their face. And you know that.
I know.
You know what I'm saying?
I know. You know.
But they never did anything. What makes that different from
If it's not, it's not different. It's the same shit.
Say word. So that person would still be the same way.
There would be some people though are racist and they will try to make sure you don't fuck with them. But hey, I can like who the fuck I want and who I don't, man. I don't give a fuck what anybody else thinks. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not fucking with you. I don't fucking try to beat you up. I don't try to hang you. I don't try to fuck with you. I'm just playing.
But
I'd just rather not deal with you if I don't have to. I mean, no.
But
if I do, I do. If I don't, I don't.
Yeah.
But those attitudes usually translate into some kind of action, especially if power is involved. And what I mean by that is this: and I'm gonna agree with you. I can harbor any type of.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I'll speak for myself and I'll speak honestly. I am not attracted, and everyone knows this. I am not attracted to big women.
Right.
I am not. We have our own business now. We have the Daily Smoke podcast. If I am not attracted to big women, when it is time for us to invite women on this show, when we get ready to have, for example, you say the sex episode,
right.
If you ask me to go out among all the people and women I know, I assure you that the individuals that I pull from to have represented on this show in our business will not be represented in terms of my personal bias.
Right.
So I've already committed an action against a certain group of people based on my attitude.
Right.
That's the problem with that attitude.
Right.
You have the right to have that attitude.
Right.
No question.
Right.
No question. That is you shouldn't be forced to like anything.
Anything or anybody.
But if power is involved, that's where the problems come in.
Right.
That's I think an internal group conflict still based off of prejudices and stereotypes, which lead to a discrimination issue. Which is why I'm so glad we're having this discussion. Because I think we take for granted what we believe, to be honest with you, and how it affects other people.
Yeah.
I really do.
But if I got the power, you have to take the power from me to change that shit. That's the only way you're gonna change it. Because if I got the power, I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want. There's nothing you can do about it.
That's true.
That's
But
right.
the question,
That's true.
The question,
You know?
that's a given. The question is, how do you do that?
How do you get?
But
how you get
history
How do you?
history has shown us that power structures can be broken all the time.
to do that.
What are you saying, Jonathan?
I say history has shown us that power structures can be broken all the time. It happens.
True.
So it's not impossible.
That's
USA.
true. That's true.
USA.
Well, let's look at it. Again, this show is about prejudices and stereotypes, and are they natural or unnatural? And to your point, when there's a power differential, if I'm not mistaken, my brother used to live in Germany, right? So for a long time in Germany, after the Third Reich fell, they made it illegal to have any Nazi paraphernalia on any level.
Sure enough.
You couldn't even, like, this is not, you want to talk about a restriction on rights. Like, you couldn't even go out and promote Nazism. You couldn't even talk about the ideology. You couldn't even find any validity, if there was validity in it, which I believe there was. But anyway, even if there were some valid points, because the entire narrative was outlawed, then what they saw was, okay, we don't have this many crimes in terms of against Germans, against Jews, and this kind of stuff. Okay, we're going to restrict an attitude, right? Now what we're having, and we're going to discuss this on one of our future shows, there's a huge resurgence in Germany among Germans saying, hey man, we're starting to become more sympathetic to, I'm sorry, y'all just saw something. We're starting to become sympathetic in Germany. It's becoming sympathetic to Nazism.
Yeah.
And now they're starting to see anti-Semitism on the rise again.
Right.
So that lets you know right then and there, you can't legislate an attitude.
Right.
Because the attitude is going to find a way up.
Right.
Like a root. That's the importance of this discussion.
Yeah.
It's always going to lead to some type of us versus them.
Yeah.
Whenever you're dealing with prejudices and stereotypes. Case in point, Germans believed black people were niggers and black people were descended from monkeys, and there were he promoted that attitude throughout 1930s and 40s Germany. If you were a black person in 1930s, 40s Germany, because the majority group has this preconceived idea about you, guess what? Not only does that limit your ability to function within a particular group, it affects your own identity of yourself. So now if enough people tell me, you're still a nigger, you're still a nigger, you're still a nigger. After 100 years of that, 200 years of that, notice how the word has become part of our language.
Right.
Changed, but it's there.
Right.
The meaning, the intent changed sometimes, depending on who's talking, but it's there. You understand? So the question becomes, well, can I have that attitude? Yeah, you can, but I'm not picking on you. Know that I'm not picking on you.
Oh, no.
Okay, because like I said, I have my own prejudices, but I think that's where we're probably as a group. When I say a group, I mean a species. I think that's where we're missing the mark when we're trying to ask the question, why isn't there world peace? Why can't we get along? Right now, you have some refugees swimming off the coast of Greece, swimming off the coast of Italy, coming from some African nations. And why do these people that live in Greece, Italy, Spain, not want these Africans or these individuals trying to migrate to another country, these refugees, if you will? Why do they not want them? They haven't had any contact with them, for the most part. They are operating off of stereotypes and prejudices.
Right.
That, in large part, education first and foremost, second, religion, third, the news media, or putting in their people's heads so that they can always have a disconnect.
Right.
And as long as I can disconnect you, I can deny your humanity. I can treat you any way I want to, and it'll be justified in the eyes of that society. But where did it start from? A simple stereotype.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Now, anyone, if y'all want to get in this conversation, y'all still can call in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Please call in.
It's all there watching.
Since y'all got so much to say on the boards, Kevin.
You know what I'm
Since
saying?
y'all got so much to say, Miss Wilkins, Miss T. Marie.
So let me ask you a question.
Just call us.
Call us.
Talk
Let me ask
to
you a
us.
question, man.
Yes, sir.
So when you say it all started from a prejudice, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you say that, how far back?
A stereotype.
Right.
Okay.
How far back do you think that goes?
Okay. I think it's in our language. And that's a good question. Thank you for asking me that question because I learned what the word stereotype means.
Right.
It comes from the word stereos, like your stereo system.
Yeah.
Stereos. Just make it plural with an S. And the Greek word means, I have to write it down. It means firm, solid impression.
Okay.
Stereo?
Stereotype. Oh, stereo. Yes, stereos. Firm, solid impression.
That makes sense.
Stereos.
That makes sense.
The fuck they know about stereos? There ain't no stereos back then.
We don't need them.
Fuck they
That
know
makes
about
sense.
stereos?
But
When
think
you
about
think
it.
about yeah, it makes sense.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Like if language shapes your reality, even if you don't know what a word means, notice how you still have the level of conviction to the meaning of what it's implying.
Right.
So we don't. That's why, like in religion, they always stress, hey, you need to learn Aramaic, Greek, Hebrew, whatever, because if you learn what the word means, that gives you a better context in which it was used. It gives you a better understanding of the intent of the speaker. So when you say how far it goes back to the structure of language itself. Because notice how when we make a stereotype, that is a firm impression. And I don't know if you all I don't know if you're aware of how hard it is to change your mind. It is very difficult to change your mind if you have your mind made up about an understanding about a certain people, situation, etc.
So let me ask you this.
Yes, sir.
Do you think that racism against black people started from a stereotype?
Absolutely. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
In Greece, in ancient Greece, you could have been from Nigeria, but if you was in Greece, you were Greek. The people in Greece, if you weren't Greek, you were a barbarian.
Right.
Didn't matter if you was from China.
Yeah.
Didn't matter if you was from Mississippi. You're not Greek.
Yeah.
You're a barbarian, right? So you already see early man making up in their minds, we're classifying ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when it comes to black people and racism specifically in the modern world, we can trace that origin to the early 1500s of the European writers and philosophers and scientists at that time. You can't find the same type of racism that we have endured, people have endured, refugees, even from, Los is Puerto Rican. He can tell you all about it. We haven't dealt with this prior to about 1300s. If you go look at any literature, they had 4 black Caesars in Rome. 4 black Caesars. So that lets you know right then and there, their issue was not skin complexion, they had other prejudices.
You weren't Roman.
You weren't Roman.
Right.
And we're coming to get you.
Right.
And that's why we're gonna enslave you.
Right.
Because we beat you.
Right.
You see how our thinking, it was already developed 500 years before we even got here. 1,000, your thinking was already determined 1,000 years before you got here. I hope that answers your question, bro.
It does kind of. And I was. This is where that question came from, right?
Okay.
Because I was sitting here and I was thinking about, okay, the hate that white people have for black people in America, right?
Not
That
all of
came. Well, you know what I'm saying. I'm talking about.
Yeah, we're speaking from
prejudice.
experience.
So it's prejudiced people. Right. Okay. When they decided to go get slaves, right?
Mhm.
And they went to Africa, right?
Okay.
Why did they choose to go and get slaves from Africa?
Oh, that's
Was
easy.
that based on a stereotype?
No, that was a matter of convenience.
That's what I'm talking about.
That was a matter, but that's what a stereotype is. A stereotype is a convenient thought form. See, you have to remember, like Jonathan has said earlier, it's like it's the brain does it so quickly, we say, so to speak, because we don't have time to size up if you're a threat or not, because evolutionary speaking, we have to deal with that, right?
Right.
So that becomes more of a modus operandi, as they say, like it's almost second nature.
Yeah.
So when specifically to your question, the reason why they chose black people specifically is that when Constantinople was captured by the Muslims, they changed it to Istanbul.
Right.
When they changed it to Istanbul, the first thing the Muslims did, they outlawed slavery. Because at that time in Christendom, Constantinople was the capital of slavery in the world. It involved mostly Europeans.
Yeah, you go buy people.
You know, it was a different type of slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Nowhere to the degree of the diaspora. but it was still nonetheless slavery. Okay. When the Muslims shut down Constantinople, you had the Portuguese sailing off the west coast of Africa. And I don't mean to be funny, but I want you to see how they saw us. They said, "Hey man, what is this? These niggas over here, half naked, just running around. We need laborers. We need workers, and we can't go to Istanbul now because what are we gonna do?" So they started snatching. That's why Bob Marley says stolen from our homeland, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because they went around and along the west coast of Africa, and that's why most of us are from the west coast of Africa, because of convenience. To your point. So when they got us, that's when they started shipping us over here, and then all of a sudden, Britain, Spain, you name it, they started getting involved. Said, "Hey man, they capturing free niggas off the west coast. We need to go get them." It was not until they did it so much that they had to start bartering. Here's a mirror. We need 20 niggas. That's how it happened, brother.
Yeah.
That's how it happened.
And you have to remember as well too, what we dealing with in America, as far as the level of racism and the intensity of it, it's manufactured. Once they started doing that, they had to justify it. They had to make people jump on board and say, "Hey, I'm okay with this." So what happened is we got vilified. We got literally drug over the coals as far as what was thought of us, what we were capable of. You know, we were either beast who was going to rape a white woman, you know, the first chance we got, Ron, or we was going to be, our women were hypersexual and could seduce men with their magical hair. That's why in Louisiana it was outlawed for women to walk around with their hair uncovered, because they thought that our women could seduce men with the magic of their hair. Like, so this is the manufactured belief system that we're up against in America. What's happened here in the United States hadn't existed, like Ron was saying, it hadn't existed before any other time in the world. You'd always have, you know, different groups and you know, like I said, religions have their own prejudices and beliefs about other groups. But what happened once the United States came into being and the slave trade here, that hadn't existed anywhere before in the world.
So let me ask you a question.
Before you ask that question, there's 13 of y'all watching and only 7 likes. Please hit that like button. I mean, I know you're liking what we're talking about because y'all are watching. So I need 6 people to hit that like button, please. Go ahead.
So what do you think would have happened? What do you think it would look like today if when they went down to Western Africa, right? And what they ran into was something completely different from us.
We would have had the same thing that happened to the Japanese. Respect, number one, because they thought that they said the scholars have often debated. They said, "Hey man, if Columbus had landed in India or Japan, where he was headed anyway, they probably killed him on the spot."
That's right.
Probably killed him on the spot. Historically speaking, African nations are not initially warring people. That's not to say, and use another stereotype, that we're all peaceful. It's just to say we had different levels and styles of engagement. I think had they not subjected the Western Africans, I don't know what would have happened to us, but I know the Native Americans would still be extinct.
Right.
I know that.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm shifting from there to there is because we're still looking at the same danger of prejudices and stereotypes.
Right.
You understand? So the same thing would have happened. It just still would have happened maybe in a different way.
Yeah.
You know, because they wanted this and they was coming to get it.
Well, you figure if they didn't go get slaves, all the Indians would have been the slaves. Because, I mean, they pretty much let them be free. We're just taking your shit. Either we're killing you or you're taking your shit or move on.
Yeah.
So if they had not no one else to get slaves from, there'd be a lot more Indian families now because they would have kept a lot of them.
You think so?
It would be like just like, you know, you guys are still here. You still have family from slavery. So imagine had they not killed them off, there'd be a lot more Indian people here today, like, you know, our Indian people.
That's the reason I asked that question that I asked to begin with. You know what I'm saying? When I said, do you really think that it started from a prejudice? I think it started from chance, and then the prejudice grew out of that. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So
I won't doubt that.
that's why I said I don't think prejudice was the origin. You know what I'm saying?
I think it was convenience, Devin, to be honest. I think it
Yeah,
was convenience.
it's the same thing.
I mean, you know,
because that's where they went and that's what they saw.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But it could have just as likely been somebody completely different.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was looking at a special man on the Romans and why to this very day we don't really know what Hannibal Barca from Carthage looked like. Why we don't really know much about Carthage. Because Carthage raised so much hell against Rome and almost beat Rome a couple of times.
Tried to wipe him.
Rome was like, we're tired of that. That's not going to happen ever again. That scared the hell out of us.
Yeah.
Elephants on our doorstep? Are you for real?
Yeah.
Across the Alps? Oh, no, we got to deal with you.
Yeah.
And the first thing that they did, which is very interesting, is now you have scholars that are conflicted on if Carthage truly was involved in practices where they would sacrifice children to their gods. The reason they're conflicted on it is because Rome did such a hell of a job of rewriting the narrative.
Right.
We don't really know what fact or fiction is, and there's minimum evidence to go one way or the other.
Yeah.
See the problem with prejudice and stereotype.
Yeah.
It removes you from the truth of the situation.
That's right.
I personally think, me personally, I'm being honest, I think prejudices and stereotypes, they safeguard us on one level. But on the other level, I think it also prohibits us from having as much of a human experience with others and ourselves that we're capable of.
Right.
And I think we go towards prejudice and stereotype because humans as a whole, we don't like uncomfortability.
Right.
We do not like to be uncomfortable.
Right.
So it's easier to demonize you than to understand you.
Right.
That's my take on it. I mean, I may be totally wrong. I'm not saying that's just my take.
No,
on
I
it.
agree with you, man. I agree with you because we all have those. I mean, it's inevitable.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen. You're gonna develop that, man. Like Jonathan was saying, man. People, that's how the brain works.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You categorize shit.
Yeah.
I hate beans. I know it sounds stupid. I hate beans.
Yeah.
I've had people to tell me, hey man, if you had my beans, you're like, I don't like beans.
Right.
Now you're being prejudiced. I don't like beans.
Right.
Okay, cook them. Cook them. They cook them.
Right.
Still don't like beans.
But that's exactly what he talking about.
That's my point. I'm playing
Same
devil's
thing.
advocate.
Yeah.
I'm just playing. I'm showing.
Yeah.
Bringing weight to the conversation. Like I don't care what you do, how you cook them. I won't like beans.
Yeah.
Because I don't like how they taste.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
But usually when we start dividing ourselves among the human family, it's not because of taste.
Right.
Maybe smell, depending on the level of hygiene of who you're talking about,
Right.
or the culture.
Right.
But we don't really usually divide ourselves from others on those basis. We're finding other things to divide ourselves. They're the wrong color. They're poor. They're overweight. They're underweight. They eat pork. They don't eat pork. You understand?
Right.
They're Catholic.
Right.
They're Muslim. You understand? He's Puerto Rican.
Right.
Bobby's a brother from America. You understand? We're going to always find ourselves dividing ourselves.
Right.
But if you look at the reasons why we do it, now we're having the conversation.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it was a comedian that said, no matter who you are, everybody's a little bit racist.
I wouldn't agree with that.
I'm not
Prejudice,
racist
but
at
not
all.
racist.
Prejudice, yes.
bro. I'm
Racist,
not
Not
racist.
racist.
Fuck
Not
that.
racist.
I don't
Okay,
care who
racist,
you are. You know what?
Not in America.
With
Yeah.
Avery Spears, so.
Not in America.
Everybody has
I'm
prejudices.
meeting with Avery Spears.
I love Mary Spears.
Oh, he was probably just being funny.
Yeah, but the way he said it, like, in a way,
He was just saying he's racist.
well, not racist, but yeah.
Everybody got prejudices, man.
You know?
Everybody got. I'm prejudiced against cops big time.
You know?
The Hutus was prejudiced against the Hutus and the Zulus or whatever. You know what I
The
mean?
Tutsis and
Tutsis, that's
and
it.
the
Hutus. They
They
prejudiced.
wiped each other out. They were
Same people.
Right,
Boy, ooh.
right.
Same people. And a white man and 1,000 miles of them.
They were just slaughtering
You know what I
each other.
mean?
They didn't like each other. They were from the same place.
Northern Ireland and Ireland. Same white folks.
Yeah.
Prejudice against each other. Why? Because one is a Catholic and the other is a Protestant. Matter of fact, go look at their videos. Like you will see the man. I was looking at a video of the IRA, and they were showing their training
Used to be
videos,
my boys back in the day.
and they were dressed and everything. And I promise you, they had the black, they had the camouflage, the black on, everything.
Yeah.
And before I knew what I was watching, the way they was moving, everything they was doing, the first thing that went through my head, I went, when the Black Panther Party did that. So that's what made me watch. Because I was like, I didn't know the Black Panther Party was behaving like this back in the day, because it was in black and white, that kind of stuff.
Right.
And they said, yeah, this is footage of IRA. What? You understand what I'm saying? I'm like, what?
That's right. They used to be my boys back in the day. Because I
To
believe
kill
that
other white
get
people?
these mugs off my land. That's the problem. I don't give a fuck what religion you are. Get off my land. You can go somewhere else. But they've always been fighting each other since way back in the day anyways.
Yeah.
This has to do with, this is where I'm from, you're from over there, get the fuck back. Just
Right.
like we said, you're not from Rome, well, you're not from Ireland, so get the hell off my land.
That's true. You know how they usually justify
although
it?
we're the same people that just happen to swim across and start
Right.
a whole new civilization here.
That's right. But you know how they justify it, brother?
Huh.
They justify it in the allocation of resources.
Yeah.
That's the justification for it.
And then it goes back to, I run things.
Right.
I'm gonna do what I say,
Right.
I'll take all your country.
Right. We start using that Thomas Malthus. See, this is the part of
Yeah.
this is the part of conversations that I'm going to speak to a specific group now. This is the part of the conversation that I wish black people would improve on as a whole.
Right.
I can give academia this to black people. They taught us how to think better. You understand? And so what they started doing, what you have to start doing, was they started saying, look, yes, we have limited resources. When you look at science and Thomas Malthus starts saying, hey man, it's not about whether you're black or white.
Right.
It's not about whether you're rich or poor. Class struggle is about resources.
Right.
And because we only have amount of resources, now as man, what we're gonna start doing, we're gonna start cascading in terms of importance, who has first dibs at them.
Right.
And in order to justify our position as being at the top of the pyramid and you're at the bottom, God said so.
Right.
Men dominate women. Children come under subjection of women. You understand? They start doing things like that. Or you're an immigrant. Okay, well you don't qualify for those services. If you're over here, or you're a refugee, where we understand where you come from. Y'all have a system of typhus. You know what I mean? We have to demonize you in some way. And if we can demonize you, we can keep you in that box.
Right.
But it always starts with some form of a stereotype and or prejudice.
Yeah.
And I would argue, I think it starts to stereotype and goes to prejudice. I don't think we just look
Yeah,
and go on prejudice. You know what I mean? But babies do. Babies are, because of symmetry of the way the face is, we're talking about prejudice. The way that babies respond to faces that are more symmetrical. And you'll see a baby, when they come across a face that isn't lined up like according to the golden ratio and all of that, babies are actually start pulling away from you because there's some kind of innate sense of attractiveness, you see, and that can lead to a prejudice, if you will. You've already gone past the stereotype. I don't have to stereotype you now. I don't like you because there's something in me that just ain't lining up with
Look
you.
right.
And then we can go on from there, you know, how they become second-class citizens or less desirable in the mating pool or what have you. But that's how important prejudice and stereotype is to our culture, to our species rather.
Well, she's seen experiments done with toddlers.
Okay.
And the experiment was have a toddler, you know, have a new face. You know, that mom is there, but have a new face in front of the toddler. And okay, I need you to put this block here, this block here. You have this. The first person doing the experiment is like it's going to be positive. You know, this, you know, just being happy. Then we have the second person come in being negative, and then they observed that when it came down, you know, when the one that was being negative, no matter what color, they kind of shied away.
That's true, Bobby.
They just like, no.
That's true.
And they was like, I don't want to touch that block because you're like the way you're presenting yourself is, I don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
But when the new teacher came back in, the one that was happy, Tyler went back to, okay, I trust you.
Mm-hmm.
So it came down like, okay, yeah, the toddler, I'm like, okay, you're learning these behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, is all this just taught?
They did a study, Bobby, in psychology, 2 studies that alarmed the hell out of me. The first one, the second one was, they found that individuals learn better by people that look like them. But they conducted that experiment here in America also. That was alarming for me, number 1. Number 2, they also did a study, I think Stanley Milgram did a study also. He was the one that did the famous study where people would torture other people, or they would act like they were tortured and they would keep doing it, you know, because of power differentials. He did an experiment. He had a bunch of kids go into a room, gave them no instructions, they just played with each other. And after watching the children, I remember we're talking about prejudice and stereotypes. After the children started engaging each other, you know how we break off into groups?
Mm-hmm.
We started breaking off into groups according to skin color. Then we started breaking off into groups because of common interests, like, okay, cool, well, we like these same things, so even though we look alike, now we have even more of a connection, you know, and a separation from someone else. Our connection is based on our separation. You see, like if me and Los here connect on one level and we disagree with you, but all 3 of us are black, he and I have a connection based on your separation from us. What they did with the kids from there, man, the kids started, and I think we all are familiar with this.
I saw that, yeah.
They started segregating themselves according to eye color.
Color of their eye. That was crazy. I saw that. I'm like, what?
To eye color.
At the end of the day, they were separated by no
By eye
matter
color.
what color they were.
Doesn't matter. They could have been black.
Brown-eyed,
Eye
those
color.
were blue-eyed, those were green-eyed.
Eye color.
I was like, wow.
Eye color.
Not even thinking about it.
Exactly.
It's just how they just grab it. Their eyes look like mine.
That's why I asked the question. I'm like, man, is this natural?
You know.
Is prejudice natural?
All right, but we might
Right.
continue.
Yeah, but you know what? The thing about that too is how many times when kids look at themselves in the mirror, they even know that they got blue eyes. You know.
Most kids.
And I guess they each came to each other somehow. That was a good experiment. Though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty neat just to see how that happened.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, we have to read this. We're gonna have to get this conversation again.
Go back to it, but
Even though we had sorry about the delay, everybody.
Yeah. Sorry about the delay earlier,
we still delivered a 1-hour show. So
yeah, man, I appreciate y'all who came back too for the second round.
Yes, thank y'all so much.
It was a lot better, man. A lot better. So we can always try to keep it right for y'all, man.
The 9 that are with us right now that stayed with us the whole time, hit that like button.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much.
If you're not subscribe. If share the videos that you like from us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And don't forget to go to the store, man. Don't forget to go to the Daily Smoke store and get some merchandise.
Right there, there's the glass.
Yeah, man.
You know, we got the cups right here down there, you know. We got the masks, you know.
just waiting on y'all to
T-shirts, we got the, long sleeve T-shirt, hoodies.
Say what else?
I gotta address something, y'all. I'm sorry, I do apologize. I don't have a prejudice against midgets. I just don't want him to touch me, man.
That's
You know what I'm
prejudice,
saying?
man. That's
Don't touch
prejudice,
me,
man.
man. Don't take little arms.
Prejudice, man.
Don't touch me, man. Like I can't get a mention, man. Like a little kid, man. Like
A little kid is not a little kid.
I'm not, you know what I'm saying?
Wrong
A
person.
big kid. You know what I mean? That's what they are, man. I
Ron-
can't deal with it.
Ron scared that if one touch him, he gonna turn into one.
That's possible. That's possible.
You gotta be a little bald midget chasing white women.
Ron couldn't be no midget.
Oh no. Oh no. That's why I don't have no kids. I have a midget kid. Oh no.
You still love that kid.
You so hard,
You already
man.
know.
Stand up towards your knees, but you're 35
I
years
told
old.
somebody that the other day. I say, man, me and my homeboys, one thing y'all gotta know about us is we grew up ranking on each other.
Hard.
And it don't matter what it is, cause we know we the ones that step for each other. So
Hard.
I ain't worried about that shit. So we go hard on each other.
Real
So
hard.
if you go
Yeah.
through some fucked up shit in life, you go
We
get
right
ranked
there.
on
We
the
right
mic.
there on you.
Right.
Right there.
And look, and so I was telling the person that because they was talking about how they how people hate to have ugly kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I told her that story, and I said, see, that's why I'm glad I was blessed. I ain't had no ugly kids, because the niggas that I hang around with, if any of us had ugly kids, we're getting ranked on.
That's right. That's
We're
right.
getting ranked on, dog.
We gonna have to choose
Yeah.
wisely.
We gonna love your ugly ass kid like they our own, but we gonna rank on
Take
you.
us out, man. Take
Why
us
your
out.
head just size?
Take us out.
So we're done for the
Yeah,
day.
man, we about to
Again,
shut
apologize
it.
for
Leave
the
us out.
technical difficulties. We appreciate everything y'all do. We're
Most
glad that
definitely.
you're with us. And hey, I'm Brother Los.
I am Big Ruck,
Brother Ron, as usual.
John,
Brother Jam.
and I'm your boy Bishop.
and we are the Daily Smoke, and we are out.
Ouch.
Peace. Appreciate y'all, man.